paint me red in this light that isn't mine. Finding every reason you can find to question my love. Remember that it's not me. I was never the one who broke your heart. We both know I've been gentle from the start. So though the questions keep on coming this time, you know that I'll listen. You know I'll be patient with you. You're my baby. Maybe this time you'll know you can trust me. You'll know I'll be faithful to you. You're my baby. I was never cheating. You connected dots that weren't there. You gave attention to the thoughts I never wear. It's not my style, even though it's so clear to me. You shouldn't base the future on the past. I know you really want this thing to last. So though the questions keep on coming this time, you know that I'll listen. You know I'll be patient with you. You're my baby. Maybe this time you'll know you can trust me. You'll know I'll be faithful to you. You're my baby. I don't wanna fight now. You're barking, you bite now to prove that I'm right now, that you lost your sight now. I'm holding it tight now. Can't see through the night. How to show you my light now, to paint these walls white now. I don't wanna fight now. You're barking, you bite now to prove that I'm right now, that you've lost your sight now. I'm holding it tight now. Can't see through the night. How to show you my light now, to paint these walls white now. So though the questions keep on coming this time, you know that I'll listen. You know I'll be patient with you. You're my baby. Maybe this time you'll know you can trust me. You'll know I'll be faithful. So though the questions keep on coming this time, you know that I'll listen. You know I'll be patient with you. You're my baby. Maybe this time you'll know you can trust me. You'll know I'll be faithful to you. You're my baby. To you, you're my baby. To you, you're my baby. To you, you're my baby. I don't wanna fight now. You're barking, you bite now to prove that I'm right now, that you've lost your sight now. I'm holding it tight now. Can't see through the night. How to show you my light now, to paint these walls white now. a useless waste of time. I don't care what's on your mind. The truth was never for us to find. We could lock horns all day, but really who cares what we say? We will be lost before we fade. I can almost hear it cry, this feeling you somehow deny. Just how do you fail to heal the roaring, grinding of your gears? As you dictate the laws, your future self honors the flaws. And some of us who are awake watch as you are fixing your mistakes. By along the stone, the subtle movements of the land. Within the limits of these chains, there's only so much to explain. There you will find this wall, the one that's infinitely tall. And as we move the hour around, are we just dancing in the sand? It's a useless waste of time. I don't care what's on your mind. The truth was never for us to find. We could lock horns all day, but really who cares what we say? We will be lost before we fade. All I seek to find is a world that's mine. Need a place to hide. Will you free my mind? Following the lights of a world that's blind. In your eyes I see there's a place for me.
It's Friday. It's Friday, everybody. It is Friday. Feels good. End of the week. Getting closer to Thanksgiving for a longer break. But it is Friday. Welcome to Science Fridays, everybody. Today's topic is going to be brains, kind of the basics of it. I can, and of course there's no, I don't have any formal lecture or anything. I don't have slides in front of me. What I have in front of me is literally what you guys see is this Welcome to Science Friday with a brain thing here. No lecture slides. This is intended to be the lecture. This is intended to be chatting. What's up, Banshee? I already see you're here. What's up? Happy Friday to you. Hope your Friday's going great. Anyway, these are never intended to be lectures. Unless people, I can do, I've been talking about doing workshops. So a lot of my colleagues and sometimes myself, sorry, let me just lower the music here. I have Monster Cat running, sorry. There we go. So I've been contemplating doing workshops, and what those would mean, like, if people want to specifically learn like how to program in R for statistics or programming in R in general, like I can get people, some of my colleagues to probably do a workshop and teach us and stuff like that. But Science Fridays are actually more intended to be talking about topics that are going on around us currently in research. Me as a graduate student, I guess I should probably begin really quick. If anyone's new to listening to Science Fridays, I'm a fourth-year graduate student in social neuroscience, so I'm kind of looking at social psychology and combining it with neuroscience. So I really like the questions that social psychology is asking, but I really love how biology addresses things, kind of not in an objective sense, but in a very concrete sense. It's not too abstract. So the cool thing about social psychology is it allows me to be very creative, get really abstract with my variables and the way I want to measure things, but biology keeps me grounded with some sense of like a cell as a cell type thing. So I'm a fourth-year graduate student, which means right now I've entered what's called the dissertation phase. That's why I don't really have a schedule for gaming per se, but I do have a schedule for Taco Tuesday and Science Friday. Something like just flew in the back of my throat. What the heck? Holy cow. Oh, wow. Oh, my throat. It just like flew in there. Okay. Oh. Oh my gosh. So sorry. I needed like a second to catch my breath there. Whew. Okay. So Taco Tuesdays are intended to be days. It's going to be every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's intended to be... Oh, no, I'm not in streaming mode. Okay. Okay. Let me... I guess let me do this. Cool. Sorry, I'm at... Cool. So Taco Tuesdays are intended to be more so a day to open up, like just chatting about anything from travel to life, food, culture, anything like that with me, with whoever wants to talk about it. It doesn't have to be directly with me, with other people as well. I brought on, I already did get to bring in my colleague. He was really nice enough to donate his time, or to like kind of volunteer his time to talk to us on Tuesday, on a Taco Tuesday, and we just talked a little bit about his perspective and stuff like that. So we got a different graduate student to talk on here. And so Science Friday is kind of a similar idea, but with Science Friday, so as a graduate student, I have to attend lectures every Friday given by professors from all over the world. And they give like just like a 1 hour to 1.5 hour lecture, or not lecture, like a talk of what they're currently doing. So it allows kind of an exchange ideas across a lot of different science labs and stuff like that. So I kind of got inspired by NPR Science Friday and just having access to this like current science. I kind of figured I could open up a spot in my channel, or open up a spot in Twitch, in the virtual world, if you will, to kind of share the science that's going on around us. Because like I said, it's kind of like it's a very niche audience that we get access to this primary research. What up, Banshee? Welcome, welcome. I was just quickly explaining Science Fridays, what they're going to kind of be about. But as always, we are welcome to chat about anything. This isn't going to be a lecture. This isn't a talk. I don't have slides in front of me to just go lecturing. I'm going to talk into the void for the most part, to just kind of bring up a topic that we can then all talk about and we can all kind of discuss. Because we as human beings, we can kind of discuss our own individual experiences. That's what makes social psychology so much fun. but I'm going to go over a little bit about the brain. I've been wanting to talk about the brain as a biological organ. So a lot of my streams so far have been focusing a lot of cognition, a lot of social psychology, so a lot of a lot of theory. But now we can talk about, let's talk a little bit about the brain as a biological organ, because like I said, so far we've been talking about the mind, right? On my channel, we've been talking a lot about psychology theory, predominantly social psychology theory, because that's where my background's at. My background is also in biology. But yeah, so let me just finish up talking about science, what Science Fridays is as a whole. So it's every Friday. Why am I getting messages on Discord? What is going on? I thought I muted it. Oh well. As a whole, Science Fridays is just going to be me kind of relaying information, or not. I'm not going to play a game of telephone. It's not going to be professors sitting there, or it's not going to be me taking notes furiously for the hour and a half that they're. Yeah, I'm trying to turn on streamer mode, but let me see. Let me see one more time. It usually turns on automatically, but I don't even know. I don't even know how to turn that on, the streamer mode. Doesn't show me. Where is it? If you have any idea how to quickly turn it on, because you know what I'm gonna do just to get back to talking is I'm just gonna exit out of Discord really quick. I don't really need it running. Okay, cool. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so Science Fridays is, yeah, I was mentioning there's professors that come, and we as graduate students get to sit there and listen. We can talk with them. A lot of the times, those professors stay an extra hour to talk to graduate students, and like we just have lunch together and we just talk about their science, or we talk about life as an academic, or if they're in private sector, because we do get talks from private sectors. Well, people who didn't stay in academia, they used their PhD and went on to do research for like Facebook or Red Bull. It could be a plethora of companies. There's many things you could do with your PhD. So we get to talk to these researchers. And so I'm just going to reiterate really quick. Sorry for anyone that's just joining us. I'm just going to be relaying kind of information from those Fridays. But most of the topics. I'm not going to be able to relay exactly all their data, because then we play a game of telephone. And if you're unfamiliar with the game of telephone, that's like, you know, when we were all in elementary school, we might have played a game where someone whispers a secret into someone's ear, and then people have to chain this secret across a room, and then someone at the end of the room says what the message was, and we find out that it's drastically changed. So that's the opposite point of this channel. The point of this channel is to promote talking about science and stuff like that in a more informative way, and a less kind of biased way, if you will, because the internet is just full of a lot of bias and misinformation. And so I'm just trying to open up a channel to talk about those things. So today we're going to talk about the brain. I can start talking a little bit, but I'm happy to chat with anyone from the chat room. Oh, right. I should probably mention really quick, really big thanks to a lot of other streamers and a lot of support recently from people here. It pushed me past affiliate, so hopefully now it's going to be able to be streamed in better quality, or I think one of my friends was mentioning not able to stream on their phone in certain modes, and it had to be affiliate. So I finally got that. There's now like points to this channel. I don't fully understand this system, so please bear with me as I go along. But yeah, there's confetti now. That's going to be the name of the points here, and you can use your confetti to spend it on stuff. You can like click on the confetti and see what you can spend it on. So far I only have 2 like unique things. I'll be adding stuff. I don't know. It's not a big deal. I'm going to continue to just do this like Taco Tuesdays and Science Fridays the way they are and stuff like that. Another thing is please never feel the need to subscribe or anything like that to this channel. If you want like just to be talking to someone that's in science and stuff, that's not my intention with this channel. This channel is meant to be free access to science and someone that's in science and education and learning resources. So if anyone like wants to subscribe because of information like it, don't like I don't want science to be something that you need to pay for. I don't want people to have to or feel like there's a paywall to get access to education information. So that will never be be a thing here. Now, if you do subscribe and stuff like that, I mean, it's heavily appreciated. What I'll probably end up doing is just trying to find a way to donate some money to science, because that's the point of this channel. But I just want to mention, please don't sub and don't worry about paying any money, at least here, for science and stuff. Yeah, okay. All right. Let me take like a water break here. Sweet. Okay, let's start talking about the brain. Let's start with, okay, so the chat is active. And again, like I said, confetti is active. The confetti will be there the whole time. I don't fully understand the whole entire system. I'm new to this whole affiliate streaming, but yeah, the confetti is active. But again, like there's like something that you can buy 100 confetti with, which I think is, to my understanding, is quite easy to get. It would make it so this is intended for when I'm gaming. It would be like stop and talk science. So right now I'm already talking science, so don't pay any attention to that right now. Cool, let's talk about the organ. So I guess we can start a little bit about kind of how the brain develops or how it came to be what it is, if you will. I'm not going to go into the whole history, talking about like, oh, fire allowed us to cook proteins and cooking like meat denatures a protein, which makes it easier to digest for us. I know, and I'm already going to the history, but this is, if people are, I'm going to say this little example if people are interested in hearing kind of the evolutionary perspective of the brain. Yeah, the fire allowed us to denature proteins. Denatured proteins are a lot easier for us to process, which allowed us to eat the meat, like cook it, eat it, and get hungry again within the same day to eat more protein, versus eating raw protein keeps you full a lot longer because it's a lot harder to digest. So your tummy's full, and so you're going to be more of a sloth for more time of the day. So that's where kind of humans started to really separate from the evolutionary link, if you will, and really start to show more like intelligence, was through the usage of fire and cooking your meat. So now you got way more protein during the day. You're eating it, and the brain requires a lot of protein. A brain of our size and capacity requires a lot of protein. So that's kind of the thing. So I'm not going to go into the super long, detailed version or story of how the brain went evolving, but just a quick snapshot. So. But this, I mean, to understand the brain a little bit, and I kind of like that there's the logo behind the Science Friday. We can kind of look at it. That little part in the back that looks all striated, all the stripes of the brain, that's the medulla oblongata, and kind of we're going to start there when we're going to go over the basics of the brain, the basics of the biology of the brain, and like the different sections of the brain. So starting from the back, right, your brain stem here. This is a very vital part of you living. This is where your brain can regulate your body temperature. It can regulate your heart rate. It regulates your kind of rhythmic breathing. Like all your vital stuff is kind of happening back here, right? Where that kind of like little pouches below. That's super important. And that's where, evolutionary speaking, in history, that's where it's thought to, like, kind of, that's the first part of the brain to ever have evolved, is this part that takes care of heart. Your everyday living. Also, that's where your gag reflex is found, like when you eat something that has poison in it and you throw it up. This has a sensor for like poison and stuff right there for toxins, so it's located very close. So it's kind of cleverly designed, if you will. It's very smart on the way nature kind of set this up. It's kind of very close to the blood-brain barrier, so any poison that made it past there gets first detected by the sensors before it makes it into the rest of the brain. So that's kind of cool. But so this is where we have the vital parts. Now moving up a little bit, let me see if I can grab my mouse. Moving up, can we see the mouse? Yeah. Moving up a little bit here in the brain. Actually, let's do this, shall we? Oops. Let's get rid of this guy. No. There we go. And then we'll play that again. Cool. All right, so now that we have that, cool. Now we have this brain right here, beautiful brain. So I was just talking about this area right here, right? This is where your vital processes are taken care of and stuff like that. So it's really important for you to take care of. Now moving up over here in the back, it's called the occipital lobe. In the back of the brain, we got the occipital. I think that's it. Actually now. Occipital. Yeah, I was right. Okay, cool. Occipital lobe. I'll put in the chat to spell it. Occipital lobe. So that's in the back of the brain. This is where you'll find a lot of visual stuff, visual neurons, visual cortex. This is where you'll find your facial processing as well takes place here. Okay. And as we move forward, there's going to be this trend as we move forward in the brain. So now we have to think about, before I continue going on, with going forward, we have to think about the 3D space in which the brain sits. So we are upright walking. A lot of animals are not. So um, the spine on a lot of animals is a 180 degree, right? The brain and their spinal cord and their brainstem and everything form this planar. They just form a line, right? They're 180. However, in humans, we started walking. We started, being bipedal, or we started walking on two legs. Sorry, not two arms. Some people can walk on two arms. I can't. Not that good. Um, so we started walking. So what happened is, as we started walking upright, this started happening to our spinal cord. Boom. And this would be the brain. So here's like how an alligator would be, a dog, right? A lot of animals have their brain like this, spinal cord like this. We started walking, so what happened was that this part kind of stayed there. So this just kind of went down like that. So what that means now, that to go forward in the brain, so like for animals to go forward, you just keep going left or this way. Sorry, I don't know if that's left or right for the viewer. For us to keep going forward, so to speak, you have to go up and then to the left. So we have to go like this to go forward, because we're kind of bent at a degree. So the next thing to have evolved for the brain, this is what this suggests, right? Finding, as we go forward, you kind of find more complex, or you find things that are less and less essential to your everyday need to survive. That's the interesting thing about the brain that people started to note when you started to see functionality behind different brain regions. You started to know, whoa, like as we go forward, these are like parts of the brain that aren't super necessary. Like example, it's super necessary to keep your heart beating at all times, because your brain needs blood. So your heart is kind of there to like make sure your brain has blood. And again, our chat here is going to take the perspective that everything that you are, not that you are you specifically, but a lot of your body parts, your body itself is there, so your brain can achieve what it needs to do. Right? So your brain, you can think of your brain, this is kind of a perspective that we can take from biology. You can think of your brain as like even like a miniature, in relation to your body, as like a miniature pilot piloting like a mechanical robot, kind of like Avatar, right? There's a little dude piloting a big dude. However, where our avatar bodies, I guess, are made out of flesh and bone and stuff like that. So basically, this organ is just this bundle of neurons, so a bundle of like electrical capable of conducting electricity and stuff to signal to each other. Those are your neurons. So as we move forward, these functions of the brain, as we move forward this way, start to become less and less critical to the survival of the brain. So your heart rate is super critical for your brain to survive. But up here, and we'll get to it, is where you'll find your highest order thinking. That's not super critical. This is like your ability to kind of think about the future, to suppress animalistic behaviors. This is called your prefrontal cortex. And this is where you contain like all your higher order thinking. And so that, to your survival, literally speaking, isn't super necessary. What's more necessary would be like in the middle, where you get your motor cortex to run and move. So you can kind of see why it's kind of hard when people say, oh, like, how have humans not been able to solve violence? Well, like, this is the part that we don't need as much. This part has been with us for a lot longer in terms of our lives on Earth as biological organisms. This is very attuned in to keeping us alive, and where a lot of psychology theory I've talked about is explained through this motivation to want to stay alive and promote yourself like as an organism, to promote your survival and then passing on your genes, and so to speak. This part is more future oriented, but the thing about it is one cool thing about it is it actually allows you, if you can use this a lot, it allows you to become kind of master of your environment, if you will, and then get all your goals that you want. So your brain can become very happy. So let's continue going. So as I mentioned, eyesight became very important to survival. If you can't see, it becomes much harder. And again, when I'm talking about evolutionary perspective, think about being out in the jungle. Nothing, no technology, nothing. You're just this caveman walking around. What's really essential to a caveman would be eyesight. So eyesight, you have your eye vision center here. Then, like I mentioned, you have your somatosensory cortex. This is kind of the feelings of being like your senses. So you have your auditory, you have a lot of your five senses are found here. Oh, we have more than five senses, just so you guys know. But you have, if you would think your five traditional senses, they'd be found here, plus your motor cortex. So again, it's really nice to be able to feel temperature on your skin, because if you're burning your hand and you might destroy the functionality of your hand, that could lead to you not surviving the rest of your life without that hand. So it'd be really nice to have sensors to say, hey man, you're about to damage your hands, don't do that. And so we developed this reflex as well to go, ow, that hurts, right? We don't even think about it. We don't have to feel the heat, think about it like, wow, that's hot, that might hurt my hand, that might burn skin cells and eventually cause neuron damage. Let's remove our hand. No, it happens automatically. Your brain is developed. This is an impressive organ, everybody. It is a very impressive organ. It developed calculations to say, okay, that's really hot, and let's take off our hand if we get to this heat level, because that will cause damage. And so you develop this reflex. Boop. You don't have to think about it. It is beautiful. So of course, this is what I'm mentioning. So eyesight's super important to be able to see your food. If you can't sense your food, it doesn't really matter. But if you can see it and hunt it down, you'll eat it. You'll still survive. But being able to feel will be a lot better too. Being able to taste will be a lot better too. And then as we move forward, we start to get memory centers. Well, memory is more found in the very center of the brain, so I don't want to really confuse people with going more forward. But we start to get into what I was mentioning, the higher order thinking over here. So you have your more primitive parts of the brain in the back, and you have your more advanced parts of the brain in the front. And the front is really where you start to be set apart from animals. We have a way highly developed prefrontal cortex relative to a lot of animals. This is where the notion that people, some scientists or some marine biologists may come to a hypothesis that dolphins could be potentially very smart, because they seem to have this pretty developed frontal cortex as well. We just might not be understanding them or finding a good way of measuring their intelligence. We might not have that instrument yet, but they themselves might actually be quite intelligent. That's kind of how you can think of this, is like, whoa, they have a very similar brain structure than we do. And our brain structure, when we've studied it, is very much dedicated to like future-oriented behaviors, primitive behavior suppression, high order thinking, complex problem solving, abstract thinking, stuff like that. That is all found here. So it's kind of like, whoa, if other animals have that too, are they doing it? We just can't communicate with them. We don't know. Whew. So this has been a quick snapshot of the brain, of kind of the development across time and kind of the different areas of your brain where they're kind of found. Again, this isn't a lecture. I'm happy to talk about anything at any moment, but that was basically the basics of your brain. If anyone has any questions, please post them in the chat. I'm going to give it 1 minute. Let's grab some pasta really quick. Okay. All right. Now, the next portion that I wanted to talk about, because these Science Fridays, again, they're not meant to be lectures at all. If you're enjoying listening, that's awesome. All the more power to you. But yeah, while we wait for conversations to start, I'll just keep kind of chatting, and then I usually end this around the hour if no conversation has started. So for the next portion that I kind of had planned here was talking about brain sciences. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about how much exactly we do know about the brain, how we go about measuring the brains, or like brain and behavior and stuff like that, and like kind of these fundamental assumptions that we as neuroscientists have to assume. That I don't want to make people super skeptical of science, but I also don't want people to believe in false realities either, that we are all knowledgeable about our brains and that we know exactly what's happening. There's still so much for us to know. And so, and I like mentioning these things because when I do hear a lot of people lambast or attack science and that it's horrible and they want to defund us and stuff like that, and I don't know why, but they want to defund us and stuff because they feel like we already know everything. Like, we're not even close. We're scratching the surface. And so I hope that this next little chats right now about brain sciences, the basics of brain sciences, can help illuminate what I mean and why we really still need science to understand our brains. Okay. Whew. Give it another second. All right. Let's continue talking about it. I like this song because it's like, let's talk. And you're like, all right, let's talk. All right, so let's talk a little bit about brain sciences now. So I am in brain sciences right now. Actually, the department I belong to as a graduate student is called Psychological and Brain Sciences. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I've been talking a lot about social psychological theory or psychological theory. A lot has been cognitive psychology. This is a lot of theory and a lot of definitions. Like I've been talking about implicit bias. I've talked about illusory correlation. I've talked about cognitive dissonance. These are all found within cognitive psychology, social psychology. So today is more focused on the biology, so the neuroscience, because my lab is about neuroscience as well. So let's talk about that. So neuroscience is a very vague term as well. It's a very broad term and incorporates so much. But if I had to like generalize it or like summarize it into like a couple of words, it's basically you're studying neurons. You're basically studying neurons because the brain is made up of neurons. So that's how like brain sciences and neuroscience kind of are synonymous, is because like you're studying neurons. So that's what I'm saying. Neuroscience can incorporate so much. It can mean you're working with rats. It can mean you're working with animals. I mean, with humans. It can mean you're working with chimps. It can mean you're working with just computers. You're just doing a lot of machine learning type stuff based on a lot of algorithms that you can get from brains. It can mean a lot of things. So the basics of brain sciences, one of the things I want to go over is a little bit about brain scanning, brain imaging, and what we can glean off of it and what we cannot. Because what we cannot is, I think, equally as important as what we can glean off of MRI scanning. Now, I do want to preface this with saying I'm not an expert by any means. Like, I'm not a doctor, medical doctor, or brain scanning, stuff like that. I don't have my PhD yet. I'm still working on it. So it's intended to be more chat conversational. But again, I'm speaking to the void, so I'll just give general stuff. If anyone's really interested in learning like the finer details and stuff, we can talk about this in the Discord. At any point, just let me shout out really quick. Any point, if you want to join the Discord and ask for stuff from a graduate student, just type in the command ! Type in Discord, and I'm pretty sure the bot will spit out the Discord link for you to join us. And that Discord's still being built as well, but it's already there, ready to go, and we can talk there as well. Okay, so in MRI and fMRI, so I primarily have been more interested, or I want to say working with fMRI, but so I have worked with fMRI, but I haven't run any of my own studies, and it's a long story as to why with fMRI. I've gone to help other people with their fMRI studies. I haven't gone to run my own. It's a little bittersweet, but it's okay. It's totally understandable situations. So from what I understand from fMRI, I've had to get training on how to do it. I've had to get training on how it kind of works and stuff, and the physics of fMRI technology, a little bit like that. And I'm not going to go over like the fMRI stuff. It's kind of cool. It involves coils and magnetism and stuff like that to get your cells to align. I'm already explaining it. To get your cells to like align in certain ways and get your molecules. Yeah. Anyway, it is really cool science, but I feel like that one's too niche, might not be too interesting to a lot of people. So for fMRI, what we're measuring is called the bold response. So a lot of brain sciences is based on what's called a bold response, and bold is an acronym. I'm going to type it in the chat. Wait, hold on. Was it dependent? Let's check it really quick. level dependent. There we go, level dependent. It was dependent. I was right, but I wasn't too sure. Okay, I put it in the chat. There we go. All right, I put it in the chat. So basically, the bold response in fMRI. So this is what we're measuring when we want to look at brain activity. So fMRI, the F in fMRI stands for functional. So you got your MRI, which is like a snapshot, and functional gives you like, if you will, like a video stream of behavior happening almost real time. So the reason I'm going to talk about fMRI is because the bold response is really, we use it a lot in neuroscience, so it kind of gives us a quick snapshot as to what I meant with like we have so much more to discover regarding the brain, because the bold response can kind of help us illuminate what I mean by that. So so basically, the bold response stands for blood oxygen level dependent response, and what's happening is the fMRI is like looking at parts of the brain that has a lot of blood in there. A lot of blood is flowing to there and concentrated there. So there is a correlation. So again, correlation does not imply causation. I had a stream about this one too. Correlation does not imply causation, but there's a strong correlation between where blood is in the brain and that brain being associated to a certain behavior. So you could start saying like, oh, here it's associated with vision, here it's associated, but those are all still correlations. They're not causations. We don't know. I mean, there could be other technologies nowadays. I've been kind of out of this strict science for a little bit, so I might, if anyone here does have the background, it would be sick to hear from them. But last I was reading about this, it's a lot of correlations that we do. So a lot of fMRI studies are just correlations. So you say they did this behavior, but this and this part of the brain lit up, and you do kind of like a reverse inference. You make an inference based on the lighting of the brain to the behavior, not the behavior causing the brain to light up that way, if you will. So it's called reverse inferencing as well, if anyone is interested in that. And so this just means that we don't have this 100% certainty when it comes to a lot of brain behaviors, because there's this really cool analogy when it comes to studying the brain that I like to give people when I have to teach neuroscience, especially like behavioral neuroscience. It's, you can think of the brain as an orchestra, right? You show up and there's going to be like a lot of musicians. However, they're not all playing at the same time, right? And there's usually a conductor there to kind of do stuff, to kind of guide it. But in an orchestra, it's equally as important to play your notes when you have to than to not play your notes when you should not play your notes, to be quiet. Because if everyone played their notes at all times, it would be chaos. You would not hear music. It would not be beautiful. So if neurons did the same thing, if they're all firing whenever they wanted, we wouldn't get elegant behaviors such as being able to draw or paint a Picasso. No way. So it's also really important for neurons to shut off, to not fire, to not light up, right? To not need to like just calm down, to produce certain behaviors. Because our behaviors are this mixture of lots of neurons firing, lots of neurons not firing, and just behavior is very complex to study, and I love studying it because it is a complex puzzle. It's so much fun. So what I'm trying to get at is that just like in an orchestra, it's equally as important to not play, so that way you can get a nice symphony going, a nice elegant music so people can really enjoy it. Same thing for walking, right? You get into this rhythmic motion of walking or talking, right? We don't think about the individual muscles doing everything. And so just imagine all your neurons firing at all times. That would be chaos. It would be insane. So it's also important for neurons to shut down. So if we're just measuring where the brain lights up, we're not necessarily, I mean, we do make notes of like where things go off and stuff. But what I'm saying is, we're not entirely sure, because what parts of the brain are turned off on purpose to create a behavior. So we still have a lot to find out about the brain. The other thing we can't really do so well is be able to get people to do their complex behaviors in everyday life. Like they have to come in, get put into a tube, and like this. There's just so much going on that we don't, at least when I'm like looking at these studies, I don't fully know how that could be impacting the brain chemistry, the biochemistry, or the psychology of the person, how much that psychology will in turn influence the biochemistry. So there's this assumption that bold means that part, that you have to reverse inference that when you have blood in that part of the brain, that is kind of giving rise to the behavior you're currently witnessing in front of you. So a lot of neuroscience also, so I did get to work so that type of stuff is done on humans for the most part. Like fMRIs, fMRIs cost a lot. So from a functional level, like people need to be in the scanner for like hours. For the most part, and it also depends on your experiment that you're going to do. And because you have them in there, you tend to kind of pack a little bit more variables in there to collect a lot of data, and then you have to pay them, so it gets quite costly. So one fMRI study can cost you $40,000, and you'll only get like 40 participants, 30 participants. So if we had a lot more money, we could get way better data, but it's just so expensive at the moment to be running these participants. So another avenue in neuroscience, so I did mention neuroscience, so this is like in humans and social psychology and social neuroscience. I kind of explained a little bit about the assumption of an fMRI, and I mentioned fMRI because we use that a lot in neuroscience. And I just wanted to mention this assumption there just so people can really understand that when we scientists report things, it's not like we're reporting them as if we're all-knowing beings. We're giving you guys, like, guys, we tested this hypothesis, these are our data, this is what we found, this is our level of certainty. And no scientist will ever say I'm 100% certain of this. They'll go, okay, here's my certainty statistic, right? Your p, or I don't want to say your p-value. I'm not going to get into statistics right now, but basically you can just say this is how certain I am. That's why I like talking about this, and I like talking about science in this low key way, just so people can feel free to chat about it with me, a graduate student. Woohoo! So let's go. So I did get some experience when I was an undergrad, and this was in a behavioral neuroscience lab. And with this one, we did have to work with rats. And because we're working with animals, because at the end of the day, we want to be able to see the cells. The thing is, we can't let the rat naturally age and die and then get the brain, because you get like cell decay, you lose your effects and stuff like that. So unfortunately, you do have to put the animals down at the end of the day when you're done with the experiment, and dig out their brains, slice their brains open, and look at the cells. So a kind of broad snapshot of what it might look like in a behavioral neuroscience lab might be you develop this experiment to try to gauge how this behavior might influence cells in this region of the brain. And so you do the experiment, and then like kind of really close to the end of your experiment, you have to kill the rats to get the brains out fresh. So you do that, you get the brains, and then you're gonna have to stain or you're gonna cut your brains with a special machine to get really nice thin slices to be able to put on a microscope, to mount it into a microscope, to then look through your microscope and be able to see cell structures. And then you take really beautiful photos of cells, of neurons, and they're really nice. And there's a couple more steps involved there, but you can get a lot of really cool data, good data from cell structures and stuff like that. Stuff that we can't get from an fMRI scan because we're just scanning real structural things with an MRI scan. But when you get to cell level, we get to really verify our theories when it comes to the biochemistry of things and how it comes to neuronal connection, branching, or what's it called? Arboration or arborization or something like that. Branching. Because like I mentioned at the beginning, the brain is just a massive bundle of neurons. It's a lot. This is when it's really funny when people say smooth brain, because next time someone does whip out the insult smooth brain, I'm gonna call them out and be like, all right, do you even know why that's an insult? Like, I'm really curious if people really know. I know they're gonna, like, the typical response might be like, oh, the more folds your brain has, like, the smarter you are. But then the next question is, all right, why do folds make you smarter? I'm just curious to see what people say. But this is when I get called the smooth brain. I'm gonna call you out. Whew, what a day. I'm gonna chill for like a couple more minutes, but I've kind of touched up on brain and brain sciences, so that's been nice. No chatting happened today, but that's totally fine. This is expected. I'm just gonna chill, listen to music. I guess I'm gonna go doing my the final minute, I guess, shout outs. If you have listened to this, thank you so much. Thank you for listening. I hope this has been informative. I'm always happy to talk about any topics you're interested in. I'll try to give a perspective from my science. Um, just remember, every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard, it's Taco Tuesdays. That's open to any discussion. Every Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we're doing this, Science Fridays. Um, and then a lot of other new stuff is going to be happening with this channel. I mentioned recently that I got affiliate, so that's cool. And now I have like a lot of stuff on my plate, like badges and stuff. I don't know. I don't want this channel to turn into people thinking they need to pay or anything. I want education and the science and everything to be perceived as completely accessible and free. So that's going to be the goal. But yeah, but anyone listening to this, you can expect some changes for the channel soon as well, because I have to do those things, but I don't know when I'll get the time to do it. We'll see. Um, I'll try my hardest to keep pumping this channel. Yeah, so again, thanks everyone for your support. Thanks for joining me today. Have an amazing weekend. And try to have a shark party.